What would you do if your new neighbor decided to wake you up with obnoxiously loud music at 7:30 in the morning? And what if they completely ignored you when you tried to be civil about it? Today's story involves a rural property dispute that escalated in the most metal way possible. And trust me, you're going to want to hear how this one ends. This is a story about boundaries, respect, and the fine line between being a good neighbor and standing up for yourself. Alex just made a major life change, moving from a densely populated suburb to the rural swamplands where everyone has 3+ acre plots. This is crucial context because it establishes the physical distance between properties. We're talking about hundreds of feet between houses, not your typical suburban backyard situation. Alex was looking forward to peace and quiet, maybe some gardening, definitely some privacy. But as we'll see, some neighbors have other plans. The Rodriguez family next door has a plot roughly half the size of Alex's land. Alex's house sits at the back left corner of their lot, while the Rodriguez house is curbside on the front right. This setup should have provided natural sound barriers and privacy, but as we'll see, some people don't respect boundaries. The Rodriguez family has been living there for about 5 years, and they've apparently gotten used to having the run of the area. Here's where things get interesting. The Rodriguez family already had a grudge against Alex because during construction, the builder had to kick their kids off the property. These kids had been using the land to ride dirt bikes and didn't stop even when home construction began. At one point, they actually trashed the construction site, throwing garbage and toilet papering the framed house, causing the construction crew to lose a full day's work. The construction crew had to clean up the mess, and Alex had to pay for the extra day of work. This wasn't just a minor inconvenience. This was vandalism, and it cost real money. The kids were told multiple times to stay off the property, but they kept coming back. They had created clear paths from their property to Alex's land where they rode their dirt bikes. These paths are still visible today, cutting through what should have been pristine rural land. The Rodriguez parents never apologized, never offered to pay for the damage, never even acknowledged that their kids had done anything wrong. The incident that sparked everything happened on a seemingly normal morning. Alex was woken up by a loud, relentless banging sound. They thought someone was knocking hard on their door because it was so persistent and loud. The sound was so intense that it actually shook the windows. Alex jumped out of bed thinking there was an emergency or someone was trying to break in. Alex got up, got dressed, and walked outside to investigate. Nothing. The front door was fine, the back door was fine. No one was around. Then they heard it, the obnoxiously loud bass line of Spanish rap music. Not just any music, but that amateur skill level beat that 10 million of those songs all share. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, 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 boom. The bass was so heavy that it was literally shaking the ground. Remember, their houses are several hundred feet apart. There is absolutely no excuse for this level of noise pollution. This wasn't an accident or someone not realizing how loud they were being. This was deliberate. The Rodriguez family had to have known that their music was audible from Alex's property. They had to have known that 7:30 in the morning is not an appropriate time for that level of noise. Alex had previously tried to introduce themselves to the Rodriguez family. A few days earlier, when Mr. Rodriguez was mowing the lawn, Alex attempted to go over and say hello. He gave Alex a dirty look and didn't even bother to turn off the lawnmower. The message was clear. They weren't interested in being neighborly. Alex tried to wave, tried to smile, but Mr. Rodriguez just stared at them with this expression that said, "I don't want to talk to you and I don't want you here." So Alex decided to handle this the civil way. They went to the Rodriguez door and knocked, asking them to turn down the music. They were completely ignored. No response, no acknowledgement, nothing. Alex knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. The music kept blasting, the bass kept thumping, and Alex was getting angrier by the second. This is where the story takes a turn, from civil to, well, let's call it assertive. Alex has a truck with an upgraded sound system and subwoofer. They parked it right on the property line between their land and the Rodriguez property. The truck has a custom sound system that Alex installed themselves. It's not just loud, it's professional-grade loud. the kind of system that you'd find in a concert venue. And then Alex proceeded to blast Raining Blood by Slayer for 15 straight minutes. For those unfamiliar with Slayer, this is one of the most intense, aggressive songs in thrash metal history. The irony is beautiful. While the Rodriguez family was blasting amateur rap beats, Alex responded with professional-grade metal mastery. Raining Blood is a song that starts with this incredible guitar riff that just builds and builds, and then the drums kick in, and it's like a musical assault. This wasn't just about volume. This was about sending a message. The Rodriguez family had chosen to ignore civil requests, so Alex showed them what it felt like to be on the receiving end of unwanted noise pollution. The sound waves from Alex's truck were so powerful that they were literally visible in the air. You could see the distortion, the way the sound was bending the light around it. The Rodriguez family's house was shaking. Their windows were rattling. Their dishes were probably falling off the shelves. And Alex just sat there in their truck, watching the chaos unfold. The music was so loud that it was probably audible from miles away. Other neighbors started coming outside to see what was happening. After exactly 15 minutes, Alex turned off the music. And they've been enjoying their silence ever since. The Rodriguez family apparently doesn't like Alex's music either. And more importantly, they now understand that their actions have consequences. The silence that followed was deafening. No more morning music sessions, no more bass thumping, no more disrespect. The resolution here is both immediate and ongoing. The immediate result was that the Rodriguez family stopped their obnoxious morning music sessions. But the deeper resolution is about establishing boundaries and showing that disrespect won't be tolerated. Alex had tried the civil approach, tried the diplomatic approach, tried the neighborly approach. None of it worked, so they had to show the Rodriguez family that they weren't going to be pushed around. There's something fascinating about the psychology here. The Rodriguez family had been testing boundaries from day one, using the property for dirt biking, trashing the construction site, ignoring civil introductions, and then the morning music assault. Alex's response was measured but unmistakable. I can be just as disruptive as you, but I choose not to be. It was a lesson in consequences, a lesson in respect, and a lesson in the fact that actions have reactions. The Rodriguez family learned that their actions have consequences. They discovered that Alex isn't someone who will just roll over and accept poor treatment. The fact that they haven't resumed their morning music sessions suggests they got the message loud and clear. They now know that Alex has the capability to be just as disruptive as they were, but chooses not to be. That's the difference between being a good neighbor and being a bad neighbor. Let's break down the ethics of this situation. On one hand, responding to noise with more noise might seem petty or immature. But let's consider the context. This wasn't a one-time incident or an accident. This was a pattern of disrespect that had been building for months. The Rodriguez family had multiple opportunities to be civil, to apologize, to make amends. They chose not to. The Rodriguez family had multiple opportunities to be civil. They could have stopped their kids from using the property illegally. They could have apologized for the construction site vandalism. They could have been friendly during the lawn mowing encounter. Instead, they chose to escalate with the morning music assault. They chose to be disrespectful. They chose to be disruptive, and they chose to ignore Alex's attempts at communication. Alex's response was effective because it was proportional and temporary. 15 minutes of Slayer versus what could have been months or years of morning music torture. The Rodriguez family got a taste of their own medicine and decided they didn't like it. They learned that their actions have consequences, and that being a bad neighbor isn't without its risks. Could Alex have handled this differently? Absolutely. They could have called the police, filed noise complaints, or pursued legal action. But sometimes, direct communication, even through music, is more effective than bureaucracy. The police might have given the Rodriguez family a warning, but they wouldn't have understood the full impact of their actions. Alex's response was immediate, proportional, and educational. The beauty of this story is in its simplicity. Alex didn't need to involve lawyers, didn't need to call the police, didn't need to start a neighborhood war. They just needed to show the Rodriguez family what it felt like to be on the receiving end of their own behavior. Sometimes, the best way to teach someone a lesson is to give them a taste of their own medicine. Now, let's dive deeper into the psychology of neighbor disputes. Why do some people feel entitled to use other people's property? Why do they ignore basic courtesy and respect? The Rodriguez family's behavior suggests a pattern of entitlement and disrespect that goes beyond just this one incident. They had been using Alex's land as their personal playground for months, and when they were told to stop, they responded with vandalism and hostility. The morning music incident wasn't just about noise, it was about power and control. The Rodriguez family was sending a message: we don't care about your comfort, we don't care about your property rights, and we don't care about basic human decency. They were testing Alex's boundaries, seeing how much they could get away with. And when Alex didn't immediately respond with force, they escalated. This is a classic pattern in neighbor disputes. One party pushes boundaries, the other party tries to be civil, and when civility doesn't work, the situation escalates. The Rodriguez family had been pushing boundaries for months, and Alex had been trying to be the bigger person. But there comes a point where being the bigger person just enables bad behavior. Alex's response was brilliant because it was both proportional and educational. They didn't call the police. They didn't start a legal battle. They didn't involve other neighbors. They just showed the Rodriguez family what it felt like to be on the receiving end of their own behavior. It was a lesson in empathy, a lesson in consequences, and a lesson in the fact that actions have reactions. The fact that the Rodriguez family stopped their morning music sessions after this incident suggests that they finally understood the impact of their actions. They had been so focused on their own desires and needs that they had completely ignored how their behavior was affecting others. Alex's response forced them to experience that impact firsthand. This story also raises interesting questions about the nature of revenge and justice. Was Alex's response revenge? Or was it justice? Was it petty? Or was it proportional? The answer depends on your perspective. From Alex's perspective, it was a necessary response to months of disrespect and boundary violations. From the Rodriguez family's perspective, it was probably seen as an overreaction to a minor incident. But let's consider the full context. The Rodriguez family had been using Alex's property illegally for months. They had vandalized the construction site, causing real financial damage. They had ignored multiple attempts at civil communication. They had escalated the situation with intentional noise pollution. In this context, Alex's response seems not just justified, but necessary. The key insight here is that sometimes the most effective way to deal with bad behavior is to show the perpetrator what it feels like to be on the receiving end. The Rodriguez family had been so focused on their own needs and desires that they had completely lost sight of how their actions were affecting others. Alex's response forced them to experience that impact firsthand. This is a lesson that applies far beyond neighbor disputes. In any situation where someone is behaving badly, the most effective response is often to show them the impact of their actions. This doesn't mean being vindictive or cruel. It means being educational and proportional. Alex's response was both of these things. The fact that the situation was resolved without involving authorities or legal action is also significant. Alex was able to solve the problem through direct communication, even if that communication was through music. This suggests that sometimes the most effective solutions are the simplest ones. So here's the question for you. Was Alex the asshole here, or were they justified in their response? The Rodriguez family had been disrespectful and disruptive for months, ignored civil attempts at communication, and then escalated with intentional noise pollution. Was the Slayer response appropriate, or should Alex have taken a different approach? Let me know in the comments below. Would you have done the same thing, or do you think there was a better way to handle this situation? And if you enjoyed this story of rural revenge, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more dramatic Reddit stories.